While he was an ardent foe of communism, Pope John Paul II found deep faults with capitalism as well.
All of humanity must think of the parable of the rich man and the beggar.
He chastised rich nations, comparing them to the wealthy man in the Bible who ignored the needs of the beggar Lazarus. The rich man was deemed contemptible not for his bankroll, but for his behavior.
Now, Herr, does Christ condemn the mere possession of earthly good as such? Instead, he pronounces very harsh words against those who use their possessions in a selfish way, without paying attention to the needs of others.
He urged rich governments to forgive the debts of developing nations.
We cannot stand idle by, enjoying our own riches and freedom. If in any place the Lazarus of the 20th century stands at our doors.
Support for the poor was a steady drumbeat of the Pope's more than 36 trips to Latin America, a region he visited more than any place but Europe. It's home to half of all Catholics. And Brazil is thought to be home to more Catholics than any other country. Brazil has long suffered from an enormous income gap between rich and poor. Each time John Paul went there, he made a point to stop in some of the country's worst slums. He blasted the government for the abhorrent treatment of its neediest people. In 1980, he left his cardinal's ring behind in a shantytown as a token of his love for the poor. His tours of Spanish-speaking countries were often politically charged. On his first Latin American trip, he stunned church leaders by denouncing the liberation theology movement. Liberation theology was a blend of Catholicism with Marxist activism. Many in Latin America saw it as a way out of poverty and powerlessness. But to Pope John Paul, it was contrary to the Church's spiritual mission, and leaders who continued to support it were replaced. The most direct confrontations between the Pope and leftist leaders came in Nicaragua in 1983. On his arrival, he admonished a priest who'd refused to leave that country's Sandinista government. But the worst friction lay ahead. The altar for his mass was laden with revolutionary images, but one symbol was pointedly missing. There was no cross. Hecklers, with the apparent support of the government, chanted, "We want peace." Soon, the Pope had had enough.
Silencio.
Silence, he demanded.
La primera que quiere la paz es la Iglesia.
The first to want peace, he said, is the Church. He was treated with more respect in 1996 when he returned to Nicaragua, then under friendlier management. Throughout his papacy, the Catholic Church faced growing competition from Protestant denominations in Latin America. But warm welcomes were the norm for his visits to Spanish-speaking countries and to Spanish-speaking communities. In response, he often asked for a greater commitment to the Church. Here's what he told worshipers in San Antonio, Texas.
Me llena de gozo el saber que el número de los sacerdotes, religiosos y religiosas hispanos va en aumento, pero aún son necesarios mucho más. Jóvenes hispanos, sentís la llamada de Cristo. Familias hispanas, ¿estáis dispuestas a entregar vuestros hijos al ministerio de la Iglesia? ¿Rogáis insistentemente al dueño de la mies que envíe operarios a su mies? Cristo necesita operarios que trabajen en la abundante mies de la comunidad hispana y en toda la Iglesia.